So hey, what's up, YouTube? Here with you mentioned-
Tatyana, Tatyana Morrison.
yeah, Tatyana Morrison here at Medgar College. We both are in the Veterans Club, so she agreed to do this interview with me. What it is to be a veteran student.
Right.
So, what's your major?
I'm a biology major, senior year. What else? Focus is pre-med, so definitely going to some type of medical field after this. Accelerated nursing is the goal to become a RN in critical care. So,
Okay, so specifically, what is critical care?
critical care is like intensive care units like ICU, CTICU, which deals with the heart, just high intense areas that means for a nurse or the staff and the team to make sure they're able to work on the fly. So being that
Okay.
intense environment somewhat correlates to being in the military, of thinking on your feet. So
Okay, so would a critical care, would that be anything like the emergency room? You know, how we see
you
the
could be in the
TV
emergency.
show.
You could be in the emergency room. You can be in the ICU unit or
Okay.
CTICU, which is like cardiac intensive care unit. Yeah.
All right. So what did you do in the military?
So I am still currently in the military. 9 years in the Army Reserve. I
Okay.
am a mortuary affairs sergeant. So basically, I am in charge of 4 to 5 other soldiers who we all operate a collection point or a theater mortuary affairs evacuation point or operating in our mortuary affairs office, which is basically making sure if there is a fellow member that has passed away overseas, we are in charge of getting them back to CONUS, which is the United States, and making sure that they are prepared in a timely fashion, reserving their remains so that way the medical examiner back in Dover can make sure that whatever the cause of death was, they'll be able to see the evidence and figure out how to create that death certificate. So basically just preservation, identification, and making sure that remain goes back to their loved ones at the end of the day. So that's pretty much what I do.
Okay. What base are you attached to?
So right now, I am a part of the 1019 Quartermaster Company. We are attached to the 77th Sustainment Brigade, but they're out in New Jersey, Fort Dix, but we're on Staten Island, Fort Wadsworth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this has been your duty station the entire time?
Kind of, sort of. I took a break last year when I volunteered to deploy to Qatar with a unit out of California, the 387th Quartermaster Company. And after that, I transferred back to my home station because I wasn't flying back and forth to California for
okay.
BA assembly. Yeah.
Okay. So how many tours have you done?
I've done 2.
Okay. And what were those?
I went to Iraq in 2020, and then I went to Qatar in 21.
All right. And what was that experience like?
Iraq was very different. It was my first time being deployed, and I was in a hazardous location, right? So it was different. Not being away from my family, being away from my son, it was hard. But I also was able to, get some time for myself and get some personal goals done. I was able to reintegrate myself back into school because I took a break in 2018 when I got pregnant with my son. Yeah, I got back to school in the middle of my deployment. Hasn't stopped since I'm still here.
Okay.
And Iraq was good. It taught me a lot about family, about having my support system, and how important that is. Make sure I'm mentally healthy because you have the accessibility to your phone, but it's not in the capacity of you having accessibility to other things that I did at home. So like going to the store, being able to go off base. Like I didn't have those leisures being on Iraq. So being at Iraq. But then Qatar was absolutely beautiful. I was a liaison for the Air Force because the Air Force really doesn't have a subject matter expert or don't have a specific team for mortuary affairs. So the Army's the only entity that has it. So we were teaching them on what our procedures look like and how it should be. So a lot of meetings, a lot of talks with a lot of brass. A lot of brass. Dealt with Afghanistan falling, dealing with the Afghans coming through Qatar to go to the United States. That was a major mission. But the country itself is absolutely beautiful. I was able to see Qatar. I was able to go off base a lot. So I spent a lot of money that I shouldn't have. But
Okay.
I figured that, this is a once in a lifetime. How many times I'm going to be in Qatar? So I was able to see a lot of the stadiums that the World Cup is probably playing in right now.
Okay.
I'm happy I'm not there now because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to go in the city now. But I was able to participate in some of their cultures, eat a lot of food, not necessarily American food or Qatari food, but they adopted a lot of cultures. So there's a lot of, they try to do Italian, or there's a lot of African culture in Qatar, whether or not a lot of people believe it or not. And then one thing I found out is they don't sell liquor. It's what they call a dry country. But if you go to a hotel, if you go to a resort, there's alcohol. So got some of those experiences as well, and it's absolutely beautiful. If I can go back, I would to Qatar. If there's no other deployment spots available, I'll volunteer as after the World Cup though, because I don't want to do all of that.
They're wilding out right
Yeah.
now.
You can't go nowhere right now.
Okay, where did you do your basic training?
Our basic training was at Fort Jackson, good old Fort Jackson,
okay.
South Carolina. It was hot. It was
That's
August.
Columbia, right?
Yeah, Columbia.
South
Yeah.
Carolina,
Hot, very trade-oc, to the T, and can't do much. But that was back in 2013. 2014, I went to basic because I signed my contract in 2013, and I had to finish high school. So, yeah, it was okay. My drill sergeant was from the Bronx, so I had a fellow New Yorkian with me, so I didn't feel as bad. But she was a single mom, but she was able to mentor us in the proper way, even though it was still basic training, and she had to be on the T and on you on top of stuff. She was still a human at the end of the day, if that makes any sense. So that part made it easy for me to be able to get out and graduate basic training.
All right. So where did you do your AIT?
AIT was good old Fort Lee.
Fort Lee?
Yeah, Fort Lee, Virginia.
All right.
Yeah, TRADOC again. But there's like Air Force and Navy on that base because they do their individual training there too. So
All right.
I was there for like 5 weeks. Went to the morgue, like the Virginia, forgot what area it is, Richmond's morgue, like city morgue. So that was interesting to see. I was able to do my first autopsy there, and was able to see one of the biggest cases they had there that year of like a young girl that was missing, and they found her unfortunately dead, but they was able to identify her by her teeth. So that was interesting.
All right. You didn't never think about going into working in the mortuary here in New York City?
I did. I was working at not city level, but I worked at New York Presbyterian Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. Before Presbyterian took over, it was Brooklyn Methodist, and I started working there in 2016 as a diener, which is also like a mortuary technician. So dealing with the dead, conducting autopsies, not really adult autopsy, but fetal autopsies. Very rare that will happen, but I was able to do that. Assist with families, got my hands in histology a little bit, knowing what that aspect looked like, and being in the lab.
Let me stop. Like, what is histology? I don't know what that
So
is.
histology, what's the best way for me to describe it? Histology, in my opinion, I feel like it's the back of house for the doctors to be able to get a definition of what the patient has. So they deal with like tissues, putting things on slides, the tissues on slides, and putting them in there's a cassette block that they have that's filled with paraffin wax, but it has tissue in it that's prepped by the pathology assistants, and they're the ones who cut the tissue and prep it and send it. It goes in a machine. I had to clean and change out the reagents that were used in that machine, and then storing the blocks and the slides. So in case if the patient went to another hospital or they want to sue the hospital, they would have pulled those records, those blocks and slides to show proof that, hey, this is what happened, this is diagnosis, or here's a second opinion if you need it. So that's what histology is to me.
Okay. Well, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
so
I didn't get so deep into it. I didn't get too deep into the histology word, but yeah, there's like histology technicians and the whole entire shebang, but they can keep that.
Okay, so what made you not like go down that path?
It's not for me. I know I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be cutting tissue. Kudos to those that do, but that's not what I want to do. Mm-mm. No.
Okay. All right. So you from New York?
Born and raised in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah, good old Brooklyn.
What I guess
Area?
Where I'm from, like Detroit, we'd be like neighborhoods or
Oh.
sections. Like
Yeah, I'm from East Flatbush.
East
A lot of people
Flatbush.
get it confused because we're like on the borderline. There's a block over, you be in Brownsville. But I'm from East Flatbush. I live in the 90s, which is not too far away from here. A little chaotic.
Okay.
Yeah, but born and raised there. A lot of Caribbean culture over there, so it's home
Okay.
for right now. At
So
least.
that's your what is your cultural background?
I'm Jamaican. My family is Jamaican. Born and raised. Can't get beside it at all.
Your parents were born and raised in
Oh,
Jamaica?
my mom was born and raised in Jamaica. My father was raised in America, but his mom is like Panamanian and Jamaican. So
Okay.
yeah, and there's some Asian culture somewhere down the line in my family roots because a lot of Asians have moved to Jamaica and interbreeding happens. So there's some people in my family that has extremely chinky little eyes, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's I noticed that here. Like I live in, I guess Flatbush.
Yeah.
Like I'm right over here, like Parkside. And,
Okay.
And Flatbush.
Mhm.
So Flatbush, and I know, I just hear people tell me like that's not a place I wanted to be in the '80s.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It was like, well, I was like, well, that sounds like the neighborhood I grew up in Detroit.
Detroit,
so,
yeah.
So I definitely didn't want to be there. So, I would have had to pass.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Brooklyn,
kindly, please. But a lot of
Yeah.
gentrification has happened, and being by the Parksville Park is like a hot
Yeah.
commodity. So,
Yeah, that's a
and the
very nice spot.
accessibility of trains makes the market go up. So,
Yeah.
who would have known that? But yeah.
I love living there now. I don't know, I guess I could be like a gentrifier. I don't
Yes,
know.
yes, yes.
You know what I mean? I guess I'm a gentrifier. So, I do my best to participate in the community. That's one of the things I do. But
That's good. It's needed.
But I do know it is changing. I know the block I live on, they had 2 apartment buildings.
Shoot up.
That's up and running now. And there's 3 up and running now. There's one of them they still working on.
Wow.
And then it's another one they just start building up. So,
Yep.
And that's just since I've been in there. 'Cause I moved over there in 2018.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, they move. And New York work fast.
They got to. They need the money.
they move fast.
Even if it don't work right.
Yeah. So, are you living in the same place you've been living in since you was a kid, or did you?
So I moved out. Me and my mom and my sisters, we moved out. We lived like down the block, and then we moved back to the house. And then once I had my son, I moved out. And then when I came back from deployment, I came back. So now that apartment is ours. So my family's been there for 26 years. Yeah.
Well, it's an apartment in a
It's an apartment. Yeah, 3 bedrooms.
3-bedroom.
Yeah.
Like, and I found that out. Like somebody told me, yeah, that family been there for like 60 years, and it's like like I know that with houses,
Mm-hmm.
but then when I hear that with
With apartments,
I'm
you
like,
gotta lock it in.
How do y'all do that? Do you
Got
just
to.
pass the lease home?
Yeah, pretty much. Like succession rights. That's the thing in New York City. Succession
Okay,
rights.
see,
yeah.
I wasn't,
You gotta fight for it, but
Okay.
yeah.
What is succession rights?
So succession rights is if you are living inside of a household for more than 2 years, you have rights to stay in that apartment.
Oh,
Hmm. But not
okay.
squatters, because squatters are completely different. Like
Okay.
squatters just enter your home and just live inside there without no remorse. They just tell you, I'm here. Like, no. So most of the time it's like family members or a family friend or whatever. And sometimes if the person moves out, the landlord could be like, hey, I want you out. And you'd be like, oh no, I've been here for 2 years. There's no way you can get me out. I have succession rights to this apartment. So
Okay, that's good for me to know.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
spread the word. 'Cause
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know.
succession rights. Yeah, I was wondering, like, how do they stay in for like 50,
You have to have
60
proof.
years?
You have to have proof, and then sometimes, honestly, yeah, you just pass the lease on. Pretty much that's what happened. You renew the lease, and once you go to court, because most likely they'll want to take you to court. to prove that you have succession rights, and then most people just pass it along that way. Yeah, unless there's a loved one that's been alive for 60 years and name is still on the lease. But NYCHA, I don't know how to do that. I'm just talking about like private apartments.
Okay, yeah, I know
NYCHA's
that
a
too.
different beast, yeah.
Because NYCHA, I know, even with NYCHA, I know some people who
They
keep
hold on to
they
it.
keep that
yeah.
for a long time, and then I
Mhm.
learned about the rent stabilized
Stabilized
apartment
apartments,
where
yeah.
people had from the 80s
Mhm.
or 70s,
Yeah.
in some cases the 60s,
Yeah.
to where they still paying that
That
low
same
rent.
low rent. Yeah.
I know one guy I met in he lived in is it Soho?
Yeah,
I think he lived in
Soho.
Soho, and he's
Yeah.
paying like, he told me he's paying like $350, and everybody around him are paying like 25, 3,000, like
He paid
$2,500.
$350.
Because he had that apartment since like the 70s. This is an older guy. He said he had that apartment since the 70s or something like
He's
that.
blessed.
70s or 80s, he's had
That's
that
crazy.
apartment. And he's paying like $350 or $450, around there somewhere.
Wow.
You know.
He would never let that go.
Yeah, he said he
He would pass it on to somebody else.
He got a 1-bedroom and he been there.
Wow.
And he paying like $350, and he say all the people
Around him paying like $4,000 a month.
Yeah. And I was like, that's crazy.
And ain't no parking.
Yeah. It's like, I don't even know if I would, like, if I knew somebody was paying
that,
$350, I don't even
would,
think I can give you $4,000.
No.
Personally, I couldn't. I don't think I could.
Especially if I know. I'm like,
yeah, if I know, if I
like,
come
I'm
into
not
this
staying
place
here.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm in Soho, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this dude paying
but also to think,
$350?
I wonder if they're even doing repairs in his apartment.
I know him. I think they are doing repairs.
Oh, well, you got it good then.
You know, I
You
think
got
he,
it
like,
real
he would
good.
take them to court.
Yeah.
You know,
Without
I
a
think
doubt.
some New Yorkers, one thing I learned about New Yorkers, if there's something they're entitled to,
Oh, yeah.
they'll be
I'm
in court all day.
Mm-hmm.
They will be in court. New Yorkers will take you to court.
Court for every little thing.
And then if you happen, then you're going to have to pay them.
Right.
You know, because I've heard that too, where they had to pay them because they took so long to fix something. Then
Right,
they
and they had to pay
the person
to fix it out of pocket.
because,
Yeah.
No, they fixed it, and then they
Mhm.
had to pay the person because of what that lack of not fixing it, what that caused.
Wow.
You know, but this is the same place I've heard people suing all kind of
All kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
It's creative now.
It is very creative.
I be hearing some stuff. I'm like, you can do that? I didn't know you can do that.
So that's this New York City. I
Yeah.
love living here.
It's nice. A lot of diversity.
Like, getting back to, you know, college.
Yeah.
Like, what do you feel about Medgar Evers College? How do you like it?
I really wasn't really in tune with, I said, student life, right? Until this year. To be honest, I just did my work and went home. I didn't
Right.
really integrate with students that much. So the Veterans Club was like the perfect opportunity because a lot of similar backgrounds, and I have fellow students that be able to give me their, you know, their mindset on how they're taking things on. So, or then have previous professors that I probably need to take classes in, and they're good professors. You know, they be able to coach me around a little bit, mentor me a little bit, instead of just going to the wolves. So, student life is pretty good, I guess, from what I've seen. The staff is all right. I wish they were a little bit more helpful. We did things in a more timely fashion because, you know, people are waiting. It's not like I'm not asking this for because I just want to. I need it, and I needed it within a certain time frame. So I just wish they were more on the ball when it came to, I know it's a huge student body, but, you know,
Yeah,
take
I
a little
do know.
a little bit more peppy step, if you will,
Yeah.
please. But student life is pretty good. For the students that I met or the students I've interacted with, it's pretty decent. One thing I will say, like most of my classes, students will create like group chats and WhatsApp, and we'll like communicate with deadlines, and if there's a quiz coming up, we try to help each other out or whatever the case may be. So it's pretty nice. There's some students that I met a day in my life, but I see we like in similar group chats because we take the same courses. So one day I had a student who was like, oh, hey, did you take this class last semester? And I was like, yeah, I did. He was like, oh, hi, it's me again. I'm like, hey.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, WhatsApp is pretty nice. I never met so many students today in my life. Never seen them ever. But
So, like most of your classes, are you doing any in-person classes?
I have a hybrid class this semester, but it's history, and then we only are in person for exams. That's it. Lectures are all online.
So most of your classes are online classes?
Yeah.
Okay, how did you originally start with online classes
No.
or in person?
I started, well, when I came back, COVID. So
Okay.
it was all online. Or it was like Zoom or whatever. And then, yeah, I don't think I actually had a physical class until this semester, since I came back to Medgar.
Okay.
And then, yeah, all my classes have been online. All online. But one thing I will say is online courses, you have to be, even though you have to be disciplined in the in-class, but online, you have to be way more disciplined. Like, you have to be on top of it, because ain't nobody's going to hold you accountable but yourself. So, but that's with life too, but just knowing, like, there's this deadline, I need to get it done by that time. That's it. Like, nothing else. No ifs, ands, or buts. You need to study. You need to do this. You need to set the time apart. So there was some nights I literally see the sun come up, but yeah, gotta do what I gotta do.
Okay, so what is it like to be still in the military, be a mother, and be a college student?
It's
What
hard.
is that like?
It's hard. There's a lot of internal battles some days, because some days you honestly feel like giving up, to be honest, because life is overwhelming some days. So sometimes I need to take a break, and I need to just take a breath, take a walk, and just realize that what I'm doing now is to set something up bigger in the future for my son, or for my family at that aspect. So it's bigger than me. But it's overwhelming. It's a lot of pressure. But I wouldn't be able to do it without my support system. Like, my sisters and my mom and my grandma and my aunts, like, they're like the battery in my back. Like, they were like, we're so proud of you. Look at you doing this. You know, your mom, you're in the military still. You're still doing this. You're still achieving your goals. It might not be in the timeline that you expected you to achieve them, but you're still going at it. So that's a big thing. So I'm grateful for them, and for God too, because Lord knows I wouldn't be able to breathe without, like, saying a quick prayer. And I'm like, Lord, please help me, please, please. So when I feel like my back is up against the wall, it's just a lot for me to I just gotta decompress. And sometimes I feel like I'm much harder on myself than what I need to be, but it's a habit. I'm like, if I'm not getting it done, then who else is gonna get it done for me? So.
Okay, so that's a lot. That's a good approach and a great support system. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So what are you bringing from your military experience in helping you with these classes and going toward graduation?
I say a different perspective, a different mindset. I guess baby steps. If you take smaller steps, not even longer strides, but you would take smaller steps. It's almost like running, right? Sometimes when you pace yourself, if you don't pace yourself the way you need to in a 2-mile run, you're gonna burn out, right? Before the 2 mile, or before your time is up, the time you need to get in to pass your PT test, right? Physical test. So if I'm burning myself out through this run, then I know I'm not gonna make it in time. So that approach is I need to pace myself in school. I need to not take it all in where it's like burn myself out in one semester to the point where I feel like I won't be able to accomplish the next one. So just taking smaller strides. That's what I think I've taken from the military into my school life period. But taking smaller strides to get to that end goal. Because in my head, I was like, I'm going to finish school in a year when I came back. No, that was impossible. You're burning yourself out, Tatyana. So I was smaller steps to get to the end goal. Pace myself, yeah.
Okay. Do you see yourself like going full active duty?
I don't know. It really depends. My thought process is if I go finish my RN, my BSN, whatever, do I want to go into AMED and be a nurse full-time in the Army? Like, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like yet. It's like, is there room for a critical care nurse inside the military? Like, where would that be? How would that look like? Financially wise, what would that look like, right? Because, yes, I may be an officer, but would I be making more money as a civilian nurse or as a military nurse? So even though my RN will still be my RN or my BSN will still be mine, but which one is going to give me more.
Well, you got to look at what the
military nurse make, and like the incentives, and debt free and housing and all that.
Tax free if you're living on base.
Right. So all those things come to mind too. So I'm not there yet.
Okay. Just
once again pacing myself, but I'm gonna do more research and speak to maybe some. I know I can, but speak to other nurses that probably had the same thought process when they went into the military or while they were in school, and jointly be in the military at the same time, because I know that they have to do like BOLIC and officer school and stuff like that. So just know what that thought process is like, because being in for 9 years, right, and then to start over as a butter bar, I might want to kick myself.
Yeah.
To be honest,
yeah.
Especially having all that experience being an NCO and just being like, oh, okay, here we go, butter bar, really? But it comes with the time. It comes with the push.
I'm pretty sure there's, there's particular protocols to where your experience and your years, your time in service will translate into
the officer world.
Will translate into those stripes.
Yeah. So I'm like, I gotta speak a little bit more about that, because once I was just high strung and like, I'm gonna be a needle surgeon. I'm gonna go to medical school and be a surgeon, and by the time I come out, I'll be a major. I was just like, blow myself through the wind. But I was like, yeah, let me slow down, because that sounds like a lot of debt right there.
Well, that's true. But if you went through the military, then they were
debt free.
Exactly.
But then I have to get back 8 years of my life.
That's true too.
So it's like, I know I want to retire, so it doesn't really matter if I do either way, but it's just more so I got to think about me.
So wait a minute, that's how you say you want to retire from the Army?
Retire, yeah. I want to retire. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Well, that's, like I got a cousin, my brother, and I got a few friends who retired from the Army. My cousin recently retired within the last year.
Wow.
He retired from the Army within the last year. I think he retired. Within the last 12 to 18 months, he retired.
Oh, good.
And then my brother, he retired down in, he in Virginia, but I think he came out of Fort Jackson. Because I believe he was stationed overseas, but he retired out of Fort Jackson or one of those bases in Virginia. It could be Virginia. I'm getting it.
The mix up is all like in
that area,
region,
like, exactly. There's a bunch of them in that region. You know what I mean? Bunch of Army bases within that Virginia, West Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina.
Yep, they're all just
and then going down to Georgia, because my training was in School of Infantry, because I was in
Fort
I was a
Benning.
grunt. Yeah.
Good old Fort Benning.
Yeah. So. But it was definitely it wasn't that fun for me.
Oh no, definitely not. Kudos to you.
Yeah. So how are you doing this semester? How is this semester shaping up for you?
This semester was extremely hard. I feel like this is by far one of the worst semesters I've ever experienced, just because my personal life took over a little bit more than what I anticipated it to. But it is life. So I had to really slow myself down and take some days off and communicate with my professors like, hey, I'm going through this personal issue right now. I need to get back in touch. I need to get back in tune. I need help, right? That's the first thing of noticing that, you feel like you're not going to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. It's like, hey, I need help. Okay. So I reached out for help. And I got resources and do much better now. I'm in a much better headspace than I was a month ago. I feel like my life crisis hit in the middle of the semester. Like, it couldn't happen in the beginning to where I'd be able to bounce back. No, in the middle, in the nit and gritty of it. So yeah, I got help and realizing I needed help, and speaking to my grandma and my mom, and mostly my grandma, because she's our rock right now.
Okay,
so
that's good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you got that help.
Yes.
So it was great talking with you.
Same here.
Good today.
Thank you.
So you must be really passing on PT tests. Clearly you're doing 300 every time.
Now we have a new measuring thing. It's called the Army Combat Fitness Test.
Oh,
It's not
it's no-
ACFT.
it's-
It's
it's
no
no
more
more?
push-ups, sit-ups, and run no more. Now it's
Oh,
like
it's not?
8 different events. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So what's the score?
I think the score now is like the max is like a 550.
Oh, so it was 300 when I was there.
It's not that no more.
Okay, so 550. What do you got to get in that 550?
So I forget what the exact. I might be extremely wrong because I took the ACT, but I did it just to see where I'll be baselined at. So it's like what do you start off? You do with like a deadlift with like the hexagon type
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah, that. The max on that I think is like 320 to lift, and the minimum I think is 200 or 210 or 220, and that's mostly like females will pick up, but you know some females are
I got
lifting, working out, doing their thing, so they
Yeah.
can probably pick up the 340 or whatever. So then after that, there's like a throw, like a over the head throw that you have to do with like a weighted ball.
Okay.
You have to do that. It has to hit a certain line. That was difficult. That's like by far the worst. Cause you really gotta anticipate where and how to throw the ball and make sure that it's madness. And then there's a sprint, drag, carry, where you sprint, you drag something that is like has a pulley with weights. You gotta pull it up and down. It's lanes that you have to do this.
Right.
Drag, sprint, drag, carry, yeah. And then you gotta carry 2 kettlebells up and down, and then you gotta sprint again. And then there's a T push-up that we gotta do. That's not bad, but the sprint, drag, carry, I feel like that's where most people get winded. And then what else is there? Sprint, drag, carry, the overhead ball throw, and then there's still the 2-mile run after all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no push-ups, no sit-ups.
No sit-ups, but the T push-up
The T
is
push-up.
but it's much easier than a regular push-up, in my
Okay.
opinion, because you get like a rest, because you go like in a flat T.
So I'm like, that's some. And then out of all of that, the max you can get is 550.
No, more than that, I think. I would really have to look it up, what it looks
So,
like.
but you have to so you can get the max is something else, but you got to get a 550.
There's a minimum. The minimum
Five-
is like 3 something.
So what is the 550 you was talking about?
I think the 550 was the max. Like that's the perfect score, like 100 in each event or whatever.
Okay, that's what I was saying. Like that's.
But I don't know what the max is off my head because I really don't.
So
I'm not
what-
aiming for the max.
550 is.
I think it's the maximum.
You think? Oh yeah, that's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
You think that's the
Mhm.
maximum,
Yeah,
but
but
you
I don't
actually
think
don't
it's
know what it is.
I would literally have to pull up what it is.
Okay, it's all good. You ain't got to pull it up.
I'm like, let's see if I can find out. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
feel like
get
it's a
what
little
the
bit
max
better.
is, and then I'll post it in the comments.
Yeah.
Or in the
what it
description.
looks like. Yeah.
Description.
What the
this new-
ACFT looks like.
Yeah, the ACFT.
And it's
I
different
didn't
for
hear-
females and different for males. Still the
Yeah,
same way.
Like I said, when I was in the service, basic.
Yep, push-ups, sit-ups,
sit-ups, and
and-
2-mile run.
Mm-hmm. Easy
And
peasy.
I think you had to, I don't even remember, 250, 275. I always did like.
The max is 300.
Yeah, the max was 300. So you
Yeah.
know, infantry, it was like you had, you couldn't get under 250.
No, of course not.
You know, so I was always doing 275, and I don't know how the hell I was doing it. I drank a lot. You know, I was in my 20s, and I drank a lot.
Bless your heart.
You know what I mean? And I would be doing this thing like hungover.
Oof. You know.
You know,
You can
hungover.
get me.
You know, 2-mile run and doing
That's
this thing,
crazy.
sweating all that.
Yeah,
out.
all the alcohol out. Just
Sweating
do your pause.
all the alcohol out. So, like today, I think about that. Like I can't do
Do that?
I can't,
No.
You know what I
Mm-mm.
mean? I'm in bed. Like I'm in New York City, and I'm still in bed like 7:30, 8 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like I can't do none of that wild stuff. But that's crazy. It's got this new stuff. But
And it goes
it's
like
all
an
looking
official
good
effect.
on you. So
Oh,
you
thank
know,
you.
you're
Thank
taking care of
God.
yourself. So that
Trying
was
my
the
best.
point of me talking about this PT. You know, you still in the military, you still in fighting shape. And this is who out here protecting our country, y'all. So thank you, Tatyana.
One of the many few.
You know, thank her for her service. She putting it in. She out here taking care of us, making sure your loved ones get to where they need to be.
Yes.
So thank you for that. Thank you
No
for
problem.
your service.
Thank you for
and
having me.
Thank you for being in this interview.
Thank you for having me.
All
And
right.
thank you for your service, right?
All right, you're
Paved the
welcome.
way.
Yeah.